Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are taking a look at a really concentrated piece of writing. It's an excerpt from brilliant Abdou's book, The Headset You Almost Had.
Right.
And this is not just another, motivation book. It feels like a much more rigorous examination of the psychological chokehold that stops us from even trying for the things we want.
It's powerful stuff. Our whole mission today is really to unpack this one singular idea. It's a bit polarizing, but the author argues it can just completely reshape your reality.
Yeah.
It's all about seeing that invisible boundary you've drawn for yourself and then just asking yourself, what if that boundary is never even real to begin with?
That's the core of it all, isn't it? Abdou centers the whole of Chapter 4 around one single question. It's like a short, rhetorical hammer, really, meant to just break through those mental blocks.
And the question is,
What if it was always possible?
And what's so crucial there is realizing how much that question goes against our mental default settings. I mean, most people, when they're facing something big,
A career change, a personal challenge.
exactly, or starting a creative project, they don't start from a place of possibility.
No, they absolutely start with fear. And the author lists out the common default questions we all live by. Things like, what if it doesn't work? Or that really anxious one, what if I fail again?
Or what if I embarrass myself,
Hmm.
which might be the worst one.
It might be. And the source isn't just, pointing these out. It's arguing that by asking these questions, we're actively wiring our lives around the expectation of failure.
Exactly. When you ask a fear-based question, you're basically priming your brain to fail. Your whole internal system just immediately starts searching for all the reasons why it can't happen.
Right, not how it could.
Not how it could. And that's confirmation bias in action. You just seek out evidence to prove your initial, usually negative assumption.
Okay, so if asking the possibility question is so simple, why do we automatically go to fear? And that, I think, leads us to the author's really fascinating concept of the filters we wear.
This concept is, well, it's everything. The book really emphasizes that we don't see the world directly. We see it, we process it through these deeply ingrained mental filters.
And they're protective, right? Or they started out that way.
They started out that way, but they've outlived their usefulness. They distort reality. They turn what could be a viable path into a dead end, all because the mind prefers the certainty of a no over the uncertainty of a maybe.
The analogies the author uses for these filters are just so vivid. Let's start with the locked door.
Well, Ecuador, yeah.
The door itself could be completely unlocked, but if your filter believes it's locked, you won't even try the handle. You just accept it.
You accept that the opportunity behind it is just gone, inaccessible. And that acceptance, that's the tragedy.
And what about the second one? The bridge, covered in fog.
Right, so the fog obscures your vision, it creates doubt. Your brain is wired to interpret that kind of uncertainty as danger, immediate existential danger. So your mind tells you the bridge is unsafe.
So you turn back.
You turn back. Even though the bridge itself is perfectly sturdy, it's your interpretation that makes you retreat, not the reality of the bridge.
And these filters, they don't just stop us with big career moves. They affect our personal connections, too. The book talks about that really difficult conversation you need to have with a loved one, the one that could fix everything. But if your internal filter is whispering, oh, they'll never listen, or they'll just argue, you stay quiet.
You just stay silent. You basically walk away from the solution before you've even tried. The filter guarantees the negative outcome.
Which is where Abdou's rhetoric is so brilliant, because then the author flips it and poses these counter questions right back at you.
What if the lock was fake?
What if the bridge was completely safe?
What if they were just waiting to hear you out?
It really forces you to confront this idea that the biggest obstacle isn't the world, it's the story you tell yourself about the world. And I think the real gut punch is when you ask yourself, how many times have I walked away from something? Not because it was physically impossible, but just because I believed it was.
And that internal belief, that acceptance of a limitation that isn't real, that's what Abdou calls the tragedy of assumptions. We mistake our assumptions for facts, and the cost is, it can be years of regret.
Let's spend a minute on those real-world examples from the text, because they really show the impact. The first one is the man who wanted to start a business, but he was stuck.
He was stuck because he had one very specific assumption. Starting a business requires a lot of capital.
Money he didn't have.
Right. For years, his filter was business equals capital. So he saw this massive, non-negotiable roadblock. The assumption wasn't that his idea was bad. It was that his situation made it impossible.
And the really devastating part came when he finally talked to someone, an entrepreneur who had actually started with less than he had.
Way less. Bootstrapped the entire thing. And suddenly he saw it. The lack of money was real, sure, but the impossibility of it all, that was completely fabricated in his mind. The filter had blinded him to all the other ways.
Then there's the second example, which is maybe even more emotional. The woman who just assumed she wasn't lovable.
Think about how huge that filter is. It affects every single relationship, every friendship, every potential partner. It basically forces her to push people away before they can confirm her deepest fear.
So she's living in isolation, thinking the flaw is inside her.
And it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Her fear of rejection leads to actions that cause rejection, which then proves her original belief was right.
Until she meets someone who doesn't try to argue with her, but just acts as if she's lovable. Just demonstrates it as a fact.
Exactly. And she realizes the ability to be loved was always there. Her disbelief was like a shield, just deflecting any proof to the contrary. The tragedy wasn't that she wasn't loved, it was that she spent years believing she couldn't be.
And the third one, the student who drops out. The assumption there is about their own intelligence.
Right. I'm just not smart enough. That student sees their struggle as a personal fundamental flaw. They think, I can't learn this, instead of maybe, I'm not being taught this in a way that works for me.
And that assumption becomes the reason to quit.
Which brings it all together. The author's conclusion here is that maybe the greatest tragedy in life isn't some big spectacular failure. It's just not knowing how many things were always possible, always available to you the whole time.
Because we treat these internal assumptions like they're external laws of physics.
Yeah. And this brings us to the language itself, to the phrase, what if? Abdou says this phrase is actually dangerous.
But it depends on how you use it.
It depends completely on whether you're using it to build regret or to create fuel to move forward.
It's all about where you point the energy. When we use what if for regret, we're looking backward, we're punishing ourselves. And the examples are things we've all thought.
Yeah. What if I had tried harder?
What if I hadn't given up?
What if I had just said yes instead of no?
And they're paralyzing questions. They anchor you to a past you can't change. It's emotionally draining because you can't act on them.
But the shift, the real magic trick, is when you take that same phrase and you pivot it forward, you turn it into fuel. It becomes exploratory.
Instead of judging the past, you're projecting possibility onto the future.
And the questions become so much more active, more optimistic, like, what if it actually works this time?
Even after all the past failures. Or my favorite one, what if I'm closer than I think?
Yes, that one's powerful. It assumes that all your past effort wasn't wasted, that it all counted for something.
And then the big one, the one that ties it all together, what if everything I want is already waiting for me?
And that connects right back to the title of the book, doesn't it? The headset you almost had. The idea is that the resources, the people, the timing, it might all be aligned right now.
The headset, the goal, is literally within reach. But your belief that it's impossible makes you turn away right before you find it. You've built a fortress around your own dream.
Out of disbelief. Which brings us to the core principle of the whole thing. The one non-negotiable rule the author presents.
The principle of disbelief. Yeah, we should state this really clearly.
The author puts it like this. Belief doesn't guarantee success, but disbelief guarantees failure.
And I really appreciate that distinction. It's not just, magical thinking. Abdou isn't saying that if you just believe hard enough, you'll defy gravity.
Not at all. There's work involved. Belief is just. It's the ticket to entry. It's the prerequisite for taking that first step. If you hold on to disbelief, if you assume that door is locked,
you never even try the handle.
You never try the handle. You guarantee failure because you cut off the possibility of even trying. Disbelief is a dead end.
So the most dangerous assumption is thinking the obstacles are all out there when really the biggest one might be the belief that your effort won't even matter.
It's an invitation, really, an invitation to test your own assumptions, to ask yourself, am I saying I can't do this? Or am I saying I haven't done it yet because I haven't tried all the handles?
So we've gone from these fear-based filters to the tragedy they cause, and now to a way to reframe what if as fuel. It's about accepting that certainty is mostly an illusion.
And possibility is the only thing worth chasing. It's really a manual for taking back control of your own story so you can actually engage with the world.
So as we close out this deep dive, we want to leave you with one final thought from the book, something to really chew on and apply to that one thing you've been putting off.
It builds on everything we've talked about. The final question is this. What if the only thing impossible is the thought that it's impossible?
Think about that locked door, that foggy bridge, that conversation. What if the truth is every door was already unlocked? And what if it was always possible?